are going to talk about reforms in energy and coal industry. Once again, I have to apologize that we had an urgent meeting at the Prime Minister because many different functions simultaneously take place. And also tomorrow, as you know, we are going to have the Congress of miners and the trade unions, some active let's say, function. We are going to participate in that ourselves. And beforehand, we try to prepare some ideas how we can support the coal industry and in what way we have to develop it in the nearest future. And we can talk about that today. Okay. So perhaps I'll start with the situation available today. So today, over the last week, we received, let's say, a big part of those money which have been allocated by Verkhovna Rada for the balance in the cost in the prime cost. We already 300 million we already spent. They were used for the to cover the indebtedness for salary and wages, and the reason for that. In last year, November and December, we underpaid about 650 million hryvnia. Moreover, in the beginning of this year, in the first month of this year, many mines were just idling. A lot is being said about the cost, the prime cost, but the prime cost is a function of volume, and the volume and the amount depends on the sales, and that was the case in January, February this year, when we actually planned to sell about 420,000, I believe, per month. We had to deliver in March, and the prime cost was about 2,000 hryvnia, and naturally, given this kind of prime cost, it's very difficult to talk about the experience of that, or cost effectiveness. And we have to allocate more money into the recovery, and we know where to invest the money. And one of the TPP already is operative. It operates both on the gas mixture and coal mixture, and it can burn monthly about 330,000 tons of concentrate. Under concentrate, we mean the enriched coal with the ash content, not 40, for example, if we are talking about the coal which is directly recovered from the mines in the Lviv basin, but the coal which is burned closer to the standard, about 23% of ash content from the amount which is being produced by the mines of ordinary grade of coal, and the rest is filtered out and not used for burning in the generating by the generating companies. So when we are talking about concentrates, you are talking about the ordinary grades of coal. It's this kind of figure, depending on the ash content, it's between 23 or some higher. And in each mine, this indicator is different. So this is something what I'm talking about, the volume of this, let's say the amount, which affects the prime cost, and we try to increase the sales to the Girka, first of all, and the second part, there are several CH combined heat and power plants, CHPPs, and the third direction could be the export. But unfortunately, to export the coal from the public mines is very difficult because the sulfur concentration is in the majority of cases exceeds 3%. and we need something less than 2% of the sulfur content in the coal, but that's why, unfortunately, this direction of our activities is close to us, and we were in negotiations with potential buyers, big time traders, and actually they offered us the price at the level $25. $25, even given the rate 30, that means 850 hryvnia, and now given the existing exchange rate is only 550 hryvnia, which is not acceptable. The first possibility where we can sell the coal are not the public coal mines, but I'm sorry, not the mines, but the generating companies, which are controlled by the tech company. The Zakhid first of all, the plants of which are located near the Lviv coal basin, and Lviv Vugilia and Volyn Vugilia companies with some minor investments, they could send or deliver the coal to Bushtinsk, Volodymyr power plants, and monthly they burn about 600,000 tons of coal, and in Lviv and Volyn public enterprise we recover or extract about 150,000. So the whole amount recovered in this region could be burned. Moreover, the Zakhid company, the state still has about 25% of shares. So speaking in principle, having our own share there, yeah, perhaps it would be logical if the state, the government, could have a possibility to burn the coal, which is logistically very conveniently located, and at least to ensure the sales of those mines or the companies. In February, we actually had the negotiations, and detect and insisted that the sales were direct ones. I just try to explain to you the Vugilia Ukraine. They actually insist to directly buy the coal from Volyn and Lviv basin, and they offered us 1,500 hryvnia price, which was rather interesting. After we read the contract thoroughly, it appeared that in addition to this price, they also proposed to use two factors, two coefficients. One of those is the level of, let's say, calculations of the energy market for the electric power supply. So that means 15 to 20% lower price. And the second coefficient they proposed, the ratio between the tariff which they receive for each generated kilowatt of energy and the prime cost of theirs. So the key problem lied in this second coefficient. Well, I understand. When you sell coal, you would like to get the 100% of money and not to depend upon some other coefficients. If you are talking about the coal professionals who already recovered and delivered or supplied the coal, it's not.
But even in these conditions, we may do certain as a consensus or so. We understand that energy market doesn't pay fully in full. Second coefficient, this is the ratio between the tariff and the cost of production. Tariff is well known because it is published by NERC, by Energy Market. Secondly, problem is their cost. The cost of 1 kilowatt is 80 kopecks or 75 kopecks realistically, and they understand it as their cost of 1 kilowatt is 1 hryvnia 20 kopecks, because first of all they take 1500 as a cost for coal. Why? Because unless this formula, they would pay for Lviv coal 900 hryvnia or something like that. So my arguing was, let us put this 900 you're ready to pay and calculate the cost. of this for producer, it will not be 120, 1 hryvnia 20, excuse me. So such discussions are not very comfortable for coal producers because they'd like to understand what did they do. But when the discussion starts to be toughy, means we'll pay you, but we'll impose a lot of conditions over you. And again, if this will depend on the cost of production or cost for enterprise, and they do not allow to get any audit, we ask them, just give us the breakdown of your costs. Nobody could understand, never, what is the cost of production for them. And we understand that in sense of the cost of production could be 800-900 hryvnia per ton, but they never show anybody any breakdown of costs. And this discussion is delayed, and it is influencing coal industry as well, among others. And we in January already shipped certain coal. It was 150,000 ton, and they didn't get them on their balance sheets. So we stopped that shipment. They stopped taking this coal, and they tried to play with this cost. So we're speaking about the strategic processes, but we are now trying to settle down the very tactical, very banal issues like sales. If it will be 10 million ton for ordinary coal, not enriched coal, so we have 6 million tons, and technologically it is possible. And of course, in order to do that, we need additional investments. We must have new mines, new technologies to be invested, and we have all those calculations for all the mines. By means of increasing the volume of production, we may put down costs, both put down it to 1200 hryvnia if we have higher volume of production. Once again, coming back to the issue of state-owned mine, it is difficult to operate because the best mines they have already privatized, and we are dealing with high ash content, very deep coal. It's over 1 kilometer in depth of any mine. In Lviv basin, the depth is not that deep, and the seams are richer. The ash content is higher. But in Pavlograd, that is managed by DTEC, the seams are richer. Of course, they invested more within last 10 years. They claim they invested $10 billion in development of 10 mines, if I remember properly. And they produce 18 million tons. Of course, this result is great, but this is something they've got from the state because they privatized very comfortable in geological sense mines and promising mines with the resources of more than 1 billion ton. They have great resources of coal, they have powerful seams, so they claim they invested 2 billions, but they operated for 10 years, and of course the money they got from the mines is much higher than 2 billions invested. So, and I understand this. I give them a clear understanding of my knowledge of all that facts. So we must raise price higher, much higher. And I understand that miners that are working hardly, they would like to have their salaries today, and this is a real problem, because in sense of salary we work over this issue. I understand that we have certain debts in sense of salaries for February and partly for March. Then we'd like to use our accumulated resources to pay our debts in salaries. I know that we have 100 million and we only will get access to those money next month through special budgeting procedures, and they will travel to cover our debt. In sense of realistic steps we must develop, in order to develop, as I mentioned, we must streamline the cost to increase production, which is automatically give opportunity to mines to increase their sales, to put down the cost of production, which is, I understand, being a minister, that is a key performance indicator. Of course, in this process, out of 35 mines that remain in Ukrainian controlled territory, before combat actions, we had 55 more mines. In Ukrainian territory, we do not have a single mine with anthracite brand of coal. We only have grade G and grade F. That is kind of a coking coal. So only this coal could only be burnt in Uglegirska, THPP. So in our program, I presented in the Cabinet of Ministers this program last Friday, and tomorrow it will be presented before the audience in this miners conference. So we broke down all the necessary, all the costs we need. As soon as we build up Volynska mine, we will be able to keep the costs that could be traveled to cover the social obligations. Moreover, we are asking for 30 million to modernize equipment to prepare the shafts and mines to make them more reliable. And this is a fundamental problem. Of course, it is difficult to solve it, having no money in hand. Third part is the difference between the cost of production and the price, means each and every ton of coal produced is subsidized. We have certain discussions started in the Cabinet of Ministers meeting on last Friday, and we understand that now we have an understanding of how much resources, how much funds we must have in hand before end of the year. It depends on the cost of production and the volume of production that we'll manage to extract. I'm sure that, of course, we will name certain figures to miners, but again, this is not fixed figure. It depends on the way this process will go on, to what extent we will manage to increase the volume of production and will be able to decrease cost of production, because today 1100 hryvnia, this is kind of a properly indicated price, because it's market shown up on the market, and of course it depends on the rate of exchange, the balance of internal production and imported stuff. Of course, we'll see the situation, how it will develop. In principle, this process.
Yeah.
So this process is already instrumented. So I understand. And the third part of this program
Is rather difficult legal part, especially for the trade. I mean, not legal, for the trade unions is optimization. At this moment, there are 52,000 people, including minors. Yeah, and a big part is works in deals with administering. A lot of the, let's say, white collar workers. When we talk with the miners, they say there are several hundreds of us who work under the ground, and above us there are a lot of people like the sales and administration groups who get the adequate payment, and they actually encumber our production costs and whatever. Maybe they also use in some inefficient schemes, money-wise. I mean, yeah, we understand. I mean, just kind of figurative example, and I try to somehow to soften down. So the less there will be this part of those people, the better. And I was talking with both the producers and the buyers and the tech who wanted to buy the coal directly. I face only one problem, which is if I fail to sell the coal, or the coal will be sold only by Lviv Gilia, Lviv coal, and the other will not have the possibility to sell their coal, then I'll find myself in a very difficult situation when the Lviv miners will get the salaries and they will continue to work and have the sales, and the rest will be idling. And that is actually was the problem faced by us in February this year. Now the situation is more or less under control, but in those days it was very important to me that we introduced the centralized sales, so that that little money which were coming here could be distributed between all the players. Because to us, the miners from Peromaisk, Krasnoyarsk are the same, and the same valuable as the Lviv miners, and only through one center of sales and purchases we could access control over this process. But as soon as we can see that there is a possibility to load everybody in proportionate manner, we can give to the local sites to issue the contracts. This will be an additional stimuli to find additional, to increase their sales. Because locally, of course, there are some small buyers which we cannot even see from the center, and maybe on a local level it's easier to do that. The second reason why we did not start the direct contracts, because this starts the competition between our mines. If there is a limited number of buyers and a big number of sellers, 35 mines, and the buyers maybe 5 to 6, several TPPs, or maybe the tech and something like that. Then the competition starts, and the mines starts to actually compete with each other for the price. And under the situation when there is indebtedness for salaries, maybe the situation can surface up when they will start to sell at the unreasonable price, and they can break the market between themselves. That's why the coordination efforts was very much important. But in the future, I cannot see any problem like that. The less we'll have the intermediate layers in the coal industry Ukraine. So if there are some claims or complaints, or there are some abuse or whatever, the General Prosecutor's Office can start their investigations or verification of the, let's say, other competent agencies, whatever. Right? And I have the understanding what happened in the previous periods, but over the last few months, I believe that the situation there is rather transparent. At the level of the Ukrainian company, there are no abuses or whatever else. So what happens now? This optimization is aimed at in two directions: to decrease the administrative personnel, decrease or let's say optimization of the people. All the way from top to the bottom. We would like to revisit what we have, and we are still the process is still in progress. But this is an ongoing process. You would like to increase the quantity or the volume or the scope. I understand maybe it's too early to fire somebody. We have to see the real scope of work, but this is the process, the real process. Of course, administrative intermediate layer must become thinner, so to say. Centralized purchases or procurement. They speak a lot about the abuses or violations at the local level. If we are talking about the purchase of the wood, timber, or the explosives, whatever else. I understand that a lot of things must be purchased at the regional level, but at least the equipment or big time things could be controlled from the center. I believe we'll also try to follow along this line, in order to decrease the abuses and the violations. Of course, this must be done very quickly, not to slow down the production process. So thus, and the third part is the social area. Each mine has their own, let's say, houses of services, different social organizations which they support. And amazingly, in the east, their number is much bigger than as compared to the west region. If you calculate per capita. And in fact, this social infrastructure must also be given down to the local level, to the local councils. I understand there are some miners who live still in the hostels. There is a hostel. This hostel must be on the books of the local council, and of course, the local council must have enough money to, let's say, to keep it or to support this hostel. So before we we delegate the authority, so to say, to this or another structure, we have to do the homework, whatever, and prepare this to happen. If we are going to spend additionally up to 8% of costs for some kind of associated structure, I believe we have to pass an appropriate decision. Nobody said that we are going to close them down or shut them down and then deliver. No, we are going to change the ownership of that and give it to the local level. But if we do that, we have to pay for the rentals and help the people to pay to make those payments, and we have to think about the efficient way how to do that. And this means a certain kind of process. So the increase of the production. Understand that we will be able to sell that scope, and we are still in the negotiations with the tech, and I hope we will be able to come to agreement with them for us not to deliver the coal from all over through the whole of Ukraine, from Lviv, for example, to their stations in the east. So it just this will mean 40 extra 400 hryvnia only for transportation expenses. This is not really cost-effective thing to do. Operational efficiency, which will allow us to decrease the production cost. Sales of the coking coal for the metallurgical companies and not for the power supply or not to the energy structures. Well, and we are talking about 15 to 20% increase of the cost sent to the metallurgical plants, because if we just burn this coal of G grade just for the power supply, it means that we are burning the money. So again, we can bring the production cost up to 100 something hryvnia by the end of this year. And of course, we ask some additional money from the budget, which are required for the finishing the construction of Volynsk, retooling, re-equipping, and additional money for the salaries. And we are looking the third component so far, depending on the situation. I hope that tomorrow the Congress, we are going to discuss in much detail this program. I believe that the representatives, once again, I ask you kindly, you had the opportunity to speak to the journalists. So let's listen to the information shared with us by the minister. No, Mr. Volodymyr is right. We have to look into this. Within the framework of this program, we involved with general directors and representatives of the mines, economic experts. I'm not saying that the minister just invented some figures. We actively exchange information with the mines, and speaking in principles, they already had certain indicators from the point of view optimization of the personnel, and from the point of view of the volumes of production and the costs which are going to be allocated to them. We did that work, carried out that work. Of course, we had to communicate with the trade unions. In some mines, for example, there are several mines, and I repeat myself, which long time ago their service life has expired. There are only small reserves left at a level less than 1 meter thick. It's not really cost effective to work any longer with those. And to do that, to recover the coal, we need some very expensive equipment to use. So there are some mines which really, we still analyze those, okay? You can see how the geopolitics affects this sector. We lost about 60 mines. We lost our anthracite or the black coal, and now we have to use the resource available. Just to say no to small reserves or complicated conditions of recovery production, again, we should not make haste or waste here. The difference here that the whole infrastructure is not, let's say, ruined or destroyed, but kind of restructuring done. And given the new conditions will appear, we can actually revive those mines. But we'll see. Each step, each conservation or let's say liquidation is done based on some justified grounds. It's not that we just think about that and invent something. That's it. But you're right. Quality profile deputy minister, I believe, will help you in this. We are always open, so please come to us. We'll be happy to work with you. Yes, I'm going to visit your place. I cannot hear the question. Sorry, the gentleman doesn't speak into microphone. Sorry. Oh, okay, Mr. Minister, maybe Mr. Volodymyr will have the chance to talk to you after we finish it briefly. Mr. Volodymyr says either in development, but increase of the production from 6 to 10, isn't that million, I mean, ton? And in addition to what we are going to New Orleans spend for New Orleans, the money, I mean, the money is going to be channeled into development. And of course, the expenses, something mandatory. We cannot avoid that. I'm not talking just to be awarded by some medals or orders. We have to fulfill our commitments and development, and that's true, Mr. Rollins. But development is something which has to be done. Please wait. Please wait. We have 15 minutes. 15 minutes for the questions. And actually, we are going to communicate with you during the trade union congress. Well, Turkey, Ukraine. We met with you on the 2nd of this month. You're talking about development. I would like to say to journalists what kind of development we are talking about. There are a lot of indebtedness for salaries. January, February, and March, and nobody is. I can't see any kind of development. This is all I can hear from this gentleman without mic. Sorry. Once again, I am sorry. I would like to ask you, is there any manager, your deputy in the ministry, the huge stahan of mine, the people do not get any salary, the central mine is idling, nobody asked, and there is no management in the general director was put behind the bars, and all the others fled and whatever. Well, I understand. Sorry for being too emotional. Please, Yeah, I'm going to answer this question. You're speaking about Krasnoyarsk coal or Krasnoyarsk Gilead, there is a very specific situation. Mildly speaking, because the general director was arrested, but as far as I remember, we already appointed the acting general director. You understand that there is a procedure, it has to be followed, to be coordinated with local administrative offices. Well, anyway, we appoint this person, and I believe that he is now trying to familiarize himself with the situation. About months ago, he actually was on the tour of the eastern regions, and I'm not sure he was Krasnoyarsk. But you are right, the situation. I know the situation, but you said that, speaking about the funds, you said that nothing was paid out of the figure I mentioned. Today, 30% is not paid. Sorry. Well, I'm going to take the papers and tables with me, and tomorrow we'll see the statistics. Mr. Brunovitz, we are talking realistically. This is not true. Mr. Brunovitz, 30% paid for January. This is not true. January, the month of January. Let's verify our data. I'm all for that. What I can tell you, if you're talking about January this year, the salary was paid. 95% of salary has been paid. Well, this is a press event, so please, we'll have a chance to talk with you tomorrow. So let's give a chance to journalists to ask their questions. Well, I have two questions. Number one, tomorrow we are going to present this plan, but speaking principle, we have to already to do something about the coal production, whatever. We are doing that. So those innovations, how fast they're going to start to work. Tomorrow or in the autumn. You know, Wugledar mine coking coal, the situation is very difficult here because this association is located on the non-controlled by Ukraine territory. The mine is under control of Ukraine. We are going to definitely resolve this situation, this issue, honestly speaking. I'll take a legal officer with me, a legal advisor with me, so that he can answer a lawyer, whatever. We are going to resolve this issue until the end of this week. We met about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you raised this question or issue. Of course, this mine is near the line of contact. Coal is located on our territory, and the management on the territory controlled by the other side. We had to redistribute the money, and that's true. Over the last 2 weeks, I don't want to mislead you, but the legal officer will come and explain, give you explanations. But I believe this week, or maximum next week, we are going to resolve this problem. He will tell you more detailed information. The mine will be independent. This will be independent unit, a legal entity with its charter, director. Actually, the charter and director are already there, but there were some issues associated with registration. Well, I understand your question. Well, for some time already been acting as a minister, and only now we reached the situation of with innovations. In fact, that was an ongoing work. Mr. Zhukov, you said that you met with him and whatever. Mr. Zhukov was working on this program. Now, over the last month, Igor Nikolaevich Martinenkov is working on that. Please understand, to submit it for consideration by the Cabinet of Ministers, we have to have a finalized document. This will take some time, but in fact, during February, those months were idle not because there was nothing to do, but because there was no sales, which affects the prospects very much. I specifically try not to talk about the war situation, but the division of the assets between two territories is not easy to do something about that. Ask anybody any legal entity who went through the procedure of, let's say, this of division of shares, whatever. Now you're talking, you have to divide the assets and liabilities between two territories. Anyway, we did that. Regarding the program, it's always been there. It did not disappear anywhere. We have to prepare our next steps. The major sense, it boils down to the following: to start to invest additional money until we had the budget in place. You understand, right? We already received some funds, but we would like to have it on systematic, regular basis, not to ask for alms from the MPs, but to have something which will allow us to earn the money ourselves and not to take the money from somebody else's pockets. That's true. Next question. You were talking about the prospects till maybe September or October, when we are going to have something in place, and when we can say no to any kind of import from Russia. I'm talking about the electric power supply. Well, in fact, I understand what you're talking about. This month, you're talking about direct power. We import the minimum amount of that. Of course, we have to increase the production. We intend to provide our generating power plants with our own coal. We have not been importing a coal from Russia for the last, I believe, 2 months. The tech actually exports coal, by the very interesting situation, by the way. They export at the price lower than actually it is shown in the balance sheet of electric power supply. But this is their problem. They are the owners, they can do that, That's why I do hope that those plants, power plants, public power plants, which buy the coal from the Ukrainian coal, they will be provided with coal. As for DTEC power plants, we cannot impose our coal on them. It's not even the issue of imposing or not. We offer them to buy the coal at the market price. And before the heating season and starts, which will start maybe closer to August after the summertime heat, so to say. But in fact, the coal is required, better needed now, because the reserve coal which we have is not sufficient, not non-technological sufficient, whatever else. We understand that in summer the consumption will be rather high because of the air conditioners, whatever. It's very difficult to foresee that, but anyway, we try to purchase or procure coal at the maximum level, or at least to provide support in doing that. It's not only the procedure of procurement, but financing. Financing is a problem. The energy market does not collect enough money. I already mentioned today, but the payment is 80% only, and this is a problem. So our efforts are aimed at increasing the level of collecting the payments. There are several problem factors: electric energy, or electric power, which is sold, for example, to the public or state-run enterprises or to water channels who pay nothing, And we are working on that issue with those entities now. There is a resolution which we plan to submit to the cabinet ministers in the nearest future for their consideration, when the costs of the water channels, water canal, will be distributed to the power distribution companies as well. This is the first part. Part two, let's say, really the owners who do not act honestly, so to say. They can invent different reasons not to pay the money. But again, we already did something about that, and today we have the schedules in place, how those indebtedness or debts of theirs, they're going to decrease. There is a big part taken by ITO, then, we just supply the energy or the power to the ITO zone, unpaid, so to say, delivery, and, generation, they do not pay in that territory, minimized, let's say, flow, and starting from April 10, we do not pay for the power supplied from Russia. There are some measures taken in order to increase collection of the payments for the power supplied. A generation will have, in this case, money for purchasing or buying coals, which will again enable the next link in this chain to produce or increase production, whatever. Speaking about export, well, in fact, nobody has restricted or limited export. We have export even today from Bushtin Island. Today, they supply on daily basis between 350 550 megawatts of electric power to Europe. My understanding is, from this point of view, there are no restrictions. We try to maximally support that. We understand this is the export money, this is additional a chance for us to burn the G or G grade coal and improve the economics indicators in the mines. Last year we supplied 10 billion for export. I don't think we can reach those figures this year because we don't have such capacities. But I would like to say that we are paying a lot of attention to generation of electric power by Energatom. We planned several, let's say, measures to be taken, which will additionally give us the possibility to provide the cheap NPP generated electric power. Can you please tell us? You mentioned the deficiency of the black coal anthracite, but such coal is at the occupied territory. Do you purchase the coal from those territories? What amount and the price? And the second question regarding the smuggling of coal. We have the information that under the disguise of the imported coal, they kind of smuggle the coal to the TPPs. Yeah, indeed. We do not have the real black coal anthracite in the territory of Ukraine. All the black coal mines remain in the occupied territories, and the main operator there is DTEC. They have three big, let's say, companies: Rovinkik, Komsomolets Donbassu, and Sverdlov Anthracite, right. All in all, they can produce more than 500,000 tons every month. They can do that. In addition, there are some public mines. Some of those really deliver some coal to our territory, but from the point of view of supporting separatists, I can tell you that as far as I understand, all those suppliers returned to the territory of Ukraine. They operate within the framework of the banking system of Ukraine, and they actually pay the money for the money which are sent to the pay cards of the miners. They pay the necessary taxes, and to maximum we direct our efforts in order to control those funds. I know you're right, indeed. SBU all the time arrests somebody and stops some of the trains. Well, I believe this is one of the major tasks or key tasks of theirs, and they also use the feds who have a more clear picture who has to pay the taxes and who are the suppliers and where the suppliers and the let's say addressees are registered, etc., etc. That's what I say. I know that SBU on a regular basis detains somebody. No microphone, sorry. I believe that theoretically everything is possible, but the Center Energo, they had never had such cases. In the tech, if you're talking about the tech enterprise or companies, I'm not sure. I never encountered those cases. I know that they stopped some of the trains at the border. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Thank you, colleagues. Next week on Tuesday we'll have another possibility to talk.